Calling all lovers of mystery and fans of a good story. If you haven't already heard me talk about June's Journey, you're in for a treat. It's time to don your detective hat in this free hidden object mobile game that delves into the captivating journey of June Parker, a self-proclaimed detective on a quest to unravel the mystery surrounding her sister's untimely death. In June's Journey, you get to play as June, deciphering clues and unveiling secret plots within thousands of beautifully illustrated scenes. And did I mention it's set in the glitzy 1920s? New chapters are added weekly, so you will never run out of new thrills to uncover, and you can also personalize and decorate your very own Orchid Island where the story takes place. How sharp are your detective skills? Find out when you download June's Journey on your Android or iOS device, or play online via Facebook Games. Your detective journey awaits.
Hi, I'm Alexis Ohanian. You may know me as one of the co-founders of Reddit, but more recently, a large part of my identity is being a father to my wonderful daughters. In my podcast, Business Dad, I hope to open the conversation about working parents a bit. You'll get to hear from a wide range of business dads, from Rainn Wilson and Guy Raz to Todd Carmichael and Shane Battier, to find out how they balance being a dad with a successful career. Business Dad is available now, so be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, this is Kaylee Humphreys, two-time Olympic champion in bobsleigh.
Hey, this is Jonathan Simkin. I am the president of 604 Records.
Hey, I'm Sam Roberts.
Hi, I am Julia Budd, Bellator 145-pound, three-time world champion.
Hi, this is Thomas Adora, and I'm a sex and relationship guru.
Hey, what's up? This is John Humphrey, drummer for the rock band Seether.
Hey, I'm Kristen Renton.
Hey, this is Troy Licata from Tesla.
Hi, it's Captain Kirk McLean here, and you're listening to the Toddcast podcast.
Every once in a while, you see initiative and drive, determination within your circle, and that's a really good feeling, right? And it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe it's a band grinding away to get things done, making cool videos from their jam spaces. Maybe it's a budding chef posting their latest creations on Instagram, a small business making headway and a great promotion, a nice engagement with followers, or whatever it is. And one of those guys for me is a former Vancouver radio personality named Chris Kalhoon. We did battle in the late 90s into the 2000s. Chris was at Z95 doing the afternoon show when I was doing the same thing for 99.3 The Fox. We weren't really going for the same listener, but I can guarantee you that, like me, he was going into the studio every day to bury me on a given day. And that's what it's all about. Competition, adversity, keeps you sharp, it keeps you honest. It's the grind and the push, the determination. And Chris is now a working actor and voice actor in LA. It's a great story, which I think you'll love. Joining Chris is a commentator for the Vancouver Warriors of the NLL. Brad Challoner is a guest this week as well. You'll hear this week's musical guest in literally just a second. Coming up shortly in Listen to This, American boxer Marlon Esparza talks about the things that still stand out in her mind from her time at the Olympics. That is powered by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley. RV service and repair, ICBC accredited. Check, check, check. Good things to check. Great people too. You can find more online at tedcorvsuppliesinc.com. First, our first guest of three, this week's musical guest, as mentioned, Clutch singer Neil Fallon. That is brought to you by Pineapple Sound, a recording and mixing studio in Langley since 2013. They welcome podcasts, voiceover actors, and a lot more. Check them out through pineapplesound.com. A Clutch has been around for 30 years. Hard to believe, but yeah, they started in 1991, although Neil wasn't the original singer in the band. It was a guy named Roger Smalls, but he wasn't around for more than a blink of an eye in the grand scheme of things. Neil has been with the band for the duration. 12 albums in, they're currently working on their 13th. Maybe you read that they're heading into the studio later on this year. Their drummer, John Paul, recently made mention of that in an interview. I think it was with Eddie Trunk. Anyway, Clutch's story is great. Friends from high school who have climbed to cult-like rock star status. They've been around for decades. Tour monsters, riff masters, good dudes. Neil was an absolute beauty, exactly as I would hope that he would be. What do they say? Don't meet your heroes. Well, that's not the case here. And you can hear and watch the full interview now. I think it's just over half hour long at our iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube accounts. Search it out through Toddcast Podcast. In the meantime, here's 10 minutes with Clutch singer Neil Fallon.
The Toddcast Podcast.
I want to maybe go back to the beginning. I want to go back to the Fallon house, man, as a kid. Like, what are you listening to? What are your parents playing to kind of get you down this road?
Well, I think in a lot of ways, my earliest memories were one, inheriting my dad's 45 collection.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of, novelty songs like, Monster Mash and Purple People Eater and Splish Splash. And
the weirdest shit got played on the radio, right? Back in the day. Like,
yeah, it was pretty bizarre. And as I've gotten older, I hear people say like, oh man, music's gotten real terrible. I wish it would go back to the way it used to. And
yeah. What do you want to hear? Mr. Postman?
Yeah. There's plenty of garbage from the 1950s and 60s that
terrible shit.
45s.
Yeah.
So that was my very first memory. And then remember listening to a lot of Dylan, Fleetwood Mac, Emmylou Harris. If a woman with long dark hair and acoustic guitar, my dad was a sucker for.
Yeah.
I ended up listening to a lot of that too. Beatles, of course, Gordon Lightfoot, all the kind of classic folk rock crossover jams.
Yeah, my mom likes to remind me that I used to throw the 45s at my older brother, smashing the shit out of all these classics, Did you get into like the disco stuff too as a kid? Like, were they playing like ABBA and like Donna Summers and all that kind of shit?
Lots of ABBA, like mainstream disco. I don't think my parents ever set foot in a real disco.
Yeah.
But they listened to the stuff they heard on the radio, like ABBA. And of course, there was like Saturday Night Fiedler. And
yes,
remember listening to the Star Wars soundtrack quite a bit. A lot of musical soundtracks. Well, my little sister was into musicals. I always despised them.
Yeah, same. I was never a fan. What are some of the bands that you've seen over the years that you're just like, man, these guys are untouchable?
I think it took me a long time to realize how fortunate myself and the band were growing up in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., because my very first introduction to local music was the Bad Brains and Fugazi.
Right.
And to me, that was like, okay, well, this is like every town has got Bad Brains and Fugazi, right? And that's not the case. And I saw Bad Brains kind of, I think it was it was right before they did Quickness. At the old 930 Club, which was a small cap room, was I think $550. And that set the bar so high at the beginning. It's been hard to live up to that. I'm trying to think of more.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like seeing a band like that caliber at a smaller room, right? Like something about big bands, small venues.
Yeah, and they were so intense. The intensity was such that I think that's when I realized that there are moments when you see a band and there's a synchronicity between the band and the audience that almost creates a bit of a religious experience.
Totally.
There's like a timelessness when you're in there. You think this is the only place you've ever been. And then you walk out and it's like it was over in the blink of an eye. And it's a big come down, afterwards, you wake up and your ears are ringing and your neck hurts and you want it again. And I think a lot of people that see live music is because of shows like that.
Oh, totally. And do you think that we'll ever go back to the style that it was like when you and I were kids? I would imagine you're probably a little bit older, but probably not by much. Like, do you think it'll ever go back to that? Like looking at the album covers, something about, waiting for Spin Magazine and Rolling Stone. And there was a bit of it was a bit of an art to it. And it kind of just seems lost lately.
It's a bit of an embarrassment of riches. It's like the internet in all its, ugliness and wonder is great. I've discovered all sorts of music because of it, but I would not want to be a band trying to get my head above that water because there's just so much out there.
Yeah.
I do think, rock and roll or heavy metal these days compared to stuff like dance music or hip hop, it's tiny. And that's okay.
Well, it's because it's safe. It's safe for programmers in radio and satellites and all that shit.
And it takes longer to do that. It's easy to turn out. I could probably, if you wanted, in the next 2 hours, turn out a dance tune.
Right.
It's not that difficult. But I think all these, baubles of technology, whether it be, streaming or Spotify, MP3s, at the end of the day, we're not that different from our ancestors who loved listening to someone bang on a log. And kids, maybe they'll probably, most trends swing, you go all the way to like, okay, here's your silent rave that you can only get in through an NFT. And this is so extreme and new. And then everyone's going to go like, let's look over here for a minute and see what our grandfathers were doing. Why would I want to go into a basement of a house and listen to my friends play? And then it'll come back. And I don't really think it's going anywhere because it satisfies a human desire.
Yeah, you hear every once in a while, you'll hear, people chirping about how rock is dead and it's going, to the wayside. It's like, no, it's not. It's not fucking going anywhere. Rock's not dead.
There are thousands of kids right now in garages banging away who many of them we will never hear about, but we will hear about some of them. And I hear about these bands from, like The Who, not The Who from England, but The Who, the metal band.
Yeah.
From, I believe they're from Mongolia. I could be wrong, but a place you wouldn't expect.
Right.
So if it's that global and that has that much longevity, I don't really see any reason to panic. Usually press will say things like rock is dead. And then that's only a setup for them to promote a band and say, so-and-so has saved rock and roll.
Right. Exactly.
It never needed to be saved.
What did you think of Royal Blood when they first came out? Do you know that band? Because that was one of the ones where Jimmy Page had said, like, this band is basically saving rock and roll. This was about 10 years back when they came out.
I only got introduced to them in the past few months.
Okay.
I don't know why. Maybe it's because I have my head under the ground for various reasons, but
right.
So I can't really, I've only heard a handful of songs. That's not to say that I'm disinterested.
But interesting. I guess my point is like Jimmy Page said that. Like, it's not just some random person saying like these guys are reviving rock. It's Jimmy Page, man, said that.
There's metal's always been around, or rock and roll's always been around. It's I don't know. Maybe it's the older you get, the harder it is to go out every weekend. Maybe, I don't know.
Yes. Yes, back to that pain of the neck sore and all that shit. Like, it just gets worse and worse as you get older.
Yeah, and it's also sometimes it's just the sad fact is it might be laziness. I'm speaking for myself, but
yeah,
it's it's not dead. It's never. I'm sure there's times where it might have been a little ill, but who among us hasn't been ill?
Right. What are you watching? Over the last year, we've had a lot of downtime. What are you binge watching lately?
That's the thing. I haven't.
Oh, really?
Usually, when the kid goes to sleep, I'm like, okay, I've got probably about another hour before I'm, sawing logs. What am I going to do? And I'm trying to think, what did we start watching? I started watching the Q documentary and I kind of felt like it was giving me a brain cramp. So I stopped watching that.
The Q documentary?
It's an HBO thing, Into the Storm.
Oh, okay.
It's not the kind of thing you want to watch, but when you're trying to relax.
Yeah.
It's a documentary.
I like docs, though. BBC stuff is amazing.
Yeah, BBC is great, and I kind of feel like they're a neutral party and maybe not completely, but more so than a lot of American media.
Yeah, totally. Feels that way too.
Yeah, I listen to that as a news source because it doesn't want me to punch a wall.
Yeah.
Relaxing about the BBC host, no matter who they are, that is a bit calming.
as we're your little brother above, we're watching the States going like, oh my God, what is happening down there, man?
We're a young country. I hope this is maybe just like puberty.
It's like the terrible twos. Puberty, exactly.
Twos.
And it's not the terrible twos. Fuck that. Whoever said terrible twos has never had a kid. It's the terrible threes, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And there was also, as my wife used to say, now we're into the fuck you fours.
Musical guests of the Toddcast podcast are powered by Pineapple Sound, providing recording and mixing services for a wide range of artists and genres since 2013. Check them out at pineapplesound.com.
Oh, it's enjoyable.
And now, listen to this on the Toddcast podcast.
In May 2012, boxer Marlon Esparza qualified to compete at the 2012 Olympics in London. She became the first American woman to qualify for the Olympics in the first year that women's boxing was an Olympic event. She won bronze. You've seen her in a PETA ad. She was in a Spanish TV commercial for Coca-Cola. She has an endorsement deal with CoverGirl Cosmetics. Marlon's also the subject of the CNN documentary In Her Corner, Latino in America Too. In 2017, she signed a multi-year deal with Golden Boy. She lost a match for the WBA interim female flyweight title in November 2019. It was a technical decision after an accidental headbutt. She won her last match in October 2020. And when Marlon was a guest, we talked about binge-watching Game of Thrones, how boxing grabbed her at an early age, the age of 10. She talked about COVID affecting her career, how she's never been to a concert. We talked about the Fury Wilder 2 boxing match, the infamous Tyson Holyfield match, CBD's usage in high-impact sports. She shared a near-death experience story as well. And Marlon talked about the things that still stand out in her mind about her time at the Olympics. Listen to this.
You know what I liked about the Olympics a lot that I missed, that I'm like, man, if I could go back and kind of do that again, I would. It was just the atmosphere of the game. So, like, within the walls, it was like you walk through and, you know, like, basically everybody there is a badass. You don't know what they're badass for, but you know they are. And everybody's just kind of, like, looking at everybody. Everybody knows what they're there for. And it's just this whole feeling of just, like, competition, and I don't know. I just feel like it's like a weird atmosphere, like a weird village of, like, everybody has their life together, you know?
Yeah.
When I don't know if really anybody does, but it just feels like, man, we all know what we're doing. But it was a really good energy that I felt like was constant, you know. And it started to die out towards the end because people, you know, start to lose, and you can feel the shift of the beginning of the game towards the end of the game. And people are like, oh, because people are starting to party. But I don't think it was that. I think it was more of just like at the beginning, everybody's, you know, dreams are endless. And then towards the end, everything starts to get shut down.
Right.
So I think that's 100% like what I wish I could go back to. Like, if to feel that again would be crazy, because I've never felt anything like it.
Listen to This on the Toddcast podcast is brought to you by Tedco RV Supplies in Langley, an ICBC-approved repair shop. Find them online at TedcoRVSuppliesInc.com.
Poster bed where I used to rest my head, and now I have a different zip code every week. Sold everything I couldn't take in my 98 gold Protege, and I swear I don't regret a single thing. I had everything you work your whole life for. You can't take it with you when you die. Can't cash a check on the other side. There ain't no buying back your time, you know. You can't take it with you when you go. We're all the same 6 feet below. There ain't no diamonds in the sky. Can't take it with you when you die. Where you die. Space, my whole life fits in one suitcase. I'm as permanent as dollar store tattoos. When people ask me if I miss the stuff I had, the way I lived, I tell them none of that's worth holding on to. No, you can't take it with you when you die. Can't cash a check on the other side. There ain't no buying back your time, you know. You can't take it with you when you go. We're all the same 6 feet below. There ain't no diamonds in the sky. Can't take it with
just a powerhouse of a vocalist, Sadie Campbell, and one of her latest songs is called You Can't Take It With You. You've heard her on the podcast here and there over the years. Just a natural, super nice. Her writing is just getting better and better, stronger and stronger. Sadie's been down in Nashville. She's from Vancouver, but just blowing minds down there for years now. I believe it's 3-4 years now, a few years, something like that. She's crushing it. Big fan of what she's all about. Played you Johnny Rath to start things off musically this week. Thought you'd love their new song called In the Ducks. Love that band. Great players. All of the songs that they've released are solid. All of them, any of them would sound great played 30, 40 times a week. They're made for radio. Rock station listeners would eat these guys up, and they're deadly live. If I'm radio programming, these guys are a no-brainer ad. Okay, Todd's Trolls coming up. The stupid, the mean, the hurtful, the funny things that people say to what you post, what you see online. This week, Dinosaur Jr., Vanquish, and UFC 261 share that spotlight. Powered by The Garage, Games and Geekery in Maple Ridge, your place to play, Warhammer, D&D, slay a bunch of trolls, and lots more. Find them online through garagegames.ca. First, the second of 3 Toddcast guests this week is our sporting guest. He's a commentator for the Vancouver Warriors in the NLL, Brad Challoner. Brought to you by Joyce Heating Services, family owned and operated, heating the Lower Mainland since 1960. You do the math. So yeah, Brad's with the Warriors. On the side, firmly tongue planted in cheek, he's the music director and assistant program director for Virgin Radio Vancouver, a radio brother. I love that Brad is involved in the NLL, National Lacrosse League. The press release came out September 2018, talking about how Brad, quote, brings a decade of experience calling lacrosse, including the past 7 seasons, describing Vancouver's game in the NLL as a color analyst. No doubt. Does a great job. He kills at the job. The Warriors put out a press release, a draining press release in February of this year, saying that the season was canceled, of course, due to COVID, but they will be back at her in the fall. The full conversation is definitely worth hearing. Search that out through Toddcast Podcast on iTunes and Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. We got it all. Till you hear that, here's 10 minutes with Vancouver Warriors commentator and radio badass, Brad Challoner.
The Toddcast Podcast.
And why radio for you? Like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Delta. I'm in the flatlands of Ladner. That's where I grew up. So
okay.
Obviously growing up listening to guys like you, man, like this is a real treat to get to talk to you. 'Cause everybody my age, I think, grew up listening to Seafox and Todd Hancock. For me, it was...
That's nice of you to say, Matt. Thank you.
Nice. No problem, buddy. It was music for me. Like I always wanted to get into the music side of things. I always thought, even as a kid, I was like, I want to be that guy that breaks songs on the radio and introduces people to their next favorite song or their next favorite band. Learned pretty quickly in broadcasting school that doesn't really exist as much as it used to. I'm like, oh, there's music directors and there's programmers and there's people that do that. It's not just jocks grabbing their favorite record off of a shelf. But I always kind of wanted to be a behind the scenes guy anyways. I didn't really have the voice to be the big rock jock. So it was always like, I always wanted to be a music director, program director. And that's sort of the path that I ended up following.
So music's always been in your life. Like, is that, you credit your parents? Like what are you being exposed to as a little kid? Like, what are your parents playing?
My dad never listened to music at all. He was just not a music guy. Like to this day, he can't. I think he might have had like Back in Black CD somewhere, and like that was all he ever had. But my mom was big into it. It was a lot of like 80s heartland rock. So like your Springsteens and your Mellencamp's and your Bob Seger and those guys who kind of opened up the door for me to go back a little further than that and get into your Neil Youngs and your Tom Petty's, and then, further back your CCRs and fall in love with sort of the old stuff to start. And then growing up as an MTV fan, like there was no genres on much music when I was growing up. Right. So, you could have Nirvana on, and then, 5 minutes later, a couple years later, then you've got like Britney Spears, and it all sort of was always together for me in the same playlist, you know, like they were always side by side and no genre ever felt out of place. So then just sort of falling in love with all kinds of music, and that permeates through to this day.
Mm-hmm. What's the first concert for you?
First concert, Too Short, E40, and Be Legit, the Bay Area Bosses Tour.
Awesome.
Yeah, 16 years old at the Vogue, general admission. I don't know why they made that show general admission and why they made it for all ages. But yeah, youngest person there, whitest person there, most out of place person there. And that was like, you know, full into the concert scene. Like I remember, you know, being a shifty little 16-year-old kid and elbowing my way to the front of the stage and like I'm like, this is what concerts are like. You can just get front row every single time. And
right.
It doesn't always work out that way. But yeah, when you're 16 and slippery, you can make that happen.
Pokey little elbows too. That helps.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
I know this is slippery waters to go in with a music director, but for you, most overrated band.
Most overrated band from a radio standpoint. From a pop radio standpoint, I'm gonna say Demi Lovato is overrated.
Okay.
In the fact that she's never actually, if you look at her playlist history, she's never really had a hit record before.
A hit record.
Yeah, like everybody knows who she is. She's hosting reality shows and like the labels make a big deal of it every time a Demi Lovato single comes out. And, you know, we might add a song and it might get a couple hundred spins here and there, but like she's never had like a bona fide A hit at pop radio. Yet she's a name that everybody knows about. Exactly. Right. Yeah. But yeah, she's never had a major radio hit, at least here in Canada.
And have you always been into sports?
Yeah, I grew up as a sports kid. Like I grew up playing in the Lower Mainland here, like playing hockey and playing lacrosse and being a rink rat growing up. Like that was sort of part and parcel with growing up for sure.
And so what's your, I mean, you would think that it would be obvious that it would be lacrosse because that's what you do for a job, but like, is that the favorite for you to watch or is it hockey or where does that lie?
It's totally lacrosse. It's always been lacrosse, man. And if you like, you've been a big supporter. You've had guys from the team on this podcast over the years. Have you been to a Warriors game? You've been to a Stealth game in the past?
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic.
And is it not one of the most entertaining sporting things you've seen before?
Well, it's just so fast, right? Like you don't realize it until you get there and you're like, holy crap, everything is going like motoring 100 miles an hour. It's incredibly fast. It's just so much different than hockey.
Yeah, totally. And I know, and people have a tough time explaining lacrosse. Like you see marketing books and stuff that always say, you know, it's hockey without skates or it's basketball with hockey gear on. But like, I don't think it's any of those things. Like it's its own unique thing, and people want to try to always put it in a box and describe it, but I think if people come out and watch it and see the creativity and how unique the sport actually is, I think it could turn a lot of heads. But yeah, for me, like there was a senior B team in town called the Ladner Pioneers, and that was what we went up. That's what we grew up going to see every Thursday night they played here, and you know that was like the best bang for your buck and one of the best sporting atmospheres, and to have that on a professional level is awesome.
Yeah, dude, I think that it's just a matter of like getting people in the Lower Mainland to go and check out a game, and it would literally change the way that they look at not only the team but the sport and the culture of that. You know, here's a sport that's one of our national sports, and you know how many people here in Vancouver have gone to a game.
Exactly, right. And when they do come to a game,
they'll be converted.
They come back, and they come back, and they come back. So yeah.
All right, dude. Let's get outside of radio and lacrosse, and of course everything you're known for. What are you binging? Do you find time? Is there time in your world to actually?
There's time after the kids go to bed, and you know you spend some time with the wife. There's time. Yellowstone, I'm really into right now.
Yeah, I'm getting that so often right now, man, and I have not seen a second of it.
Oh, really? You got to jump in. I was a bit late. actually just finished season 1, but just crushed that in the last like week or so. But like Kevin Costner is just such an OG, such an OG gangster. Like he owns every scene he's in. The visuals in that show, like the scenery, like the montage, it makes you want to go to Montana and like, you know, jump in a truck and go cruising. And the music, like Ryan Bingham is another alt country singer. He's got a big part in that show, and he busts out the guitar and sings. And like, I've never Shazammed more songs in a show than I do when I'm watching Yellowstone. I'm holding up the phone like at the end of every episode. Their music supervisor crushes it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I heard it's something like a cross between like the country olden days, the, you know, Western style meets Breaking Bad.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's a great description. It's like, I love Western, so it is. Yeah, it's a modern Western, I guess, is the way that I would describe it, with a lot of drama. Interesting.
What did you collect as a kid?
Collect as a kid, hats. Still collect hats. I have like dozens and dozens of baseball hats of, you know, from lots of different sports. You know, trucker hats, ball caps. Hockey cards were always a big thing. I'm sitting in my garage right now. One of these totes is filled with hockey cards that I don't know if my kids will have anything to do with one day, but for some reason I can't can't get rid of them. And then CDs and records, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you put those the cards in the spokes?
Oh yeah, I got it. Yeah,
Gretzky rookie, wreck.
Yeah, trading with kids, and I remember trading all my Gretzkys. I was a Gretzky hater for some reason. Oh, really? And I went to I traded all my Gretzkys for all Eric Lindros cards from a neighbor of mine who absolutely fleeced me back in the day. But I don't know, wow. Gretzky just wasn't into Gretzky. And like, you know, I think.
Was it just that he was just too good?
He was like, I think by the time I got into Gretzky, I didn't realize he was so good. You know, it was like tapering down Gretzky, and I knew of the legends, but I'm like, okay, what do I need this New York Rangers Gretzky card for when I could flip it for a Eric Lindros card, who was like the biggest deal at the time. Right. But yeah, not a great idea looking back.
And then cue the 6 concussions and
exactly. Yeah, that was short-lived.
Yes, totally. Did you get into comic books as a kid? Like, are you a fan of all the, you know, X-Men and Batman and Deadpool and all that?
Only recently. So like as a kid, not at all. But my 3-year-old son, for some reason, has gravitated towards Spider-Man and Marvel, and, you know, would run into the room and like asking me questions, right? Like, Dad, who's Doc Ock, and what does Green Lantern do? I'm like, I don't know. So I started watching. Started the universe in quarantine here. Yeah. During the pandemic, I started the universe in timeline order.
Oh, so, wow.
Trying to catch up and answer some questions.
Sporting guest visits of the Toddcast podcast are powered by Joyce Heating Services, a family-owned and operated heating business serving the Lower Mainland since 1960. Online at joyceheating.com.
Getting out my mind, all these wanted sounds, no apologies, whiskey therapy, we're just killing time. Devil water, I've been running free, keeps my sanity, drinking ain't no crime, it's my alibi, we're just doing me. Devil water, abandoned by my self-control, I got here on my own, at least I'm not alone. Stuck inside this carnival with clowns and kindred souls is where I call my home. Devil water, I got my devil water. Rinse and repeat is my destiny. takes. Abandoned by my self-control, I got here on my own. At least I'm not alone. Stuck inside this carnival, oh, with clowns and kindred souls, is where I call my home. Devil water, yeah, I got my devil water. Oh, I got my devil water. Yeah, I got my devil water.
The Toddcast podcast is powered by Milano Coffee, bringing you the finest espresso and coffee concepts in the world. Online at milanocoffee.ca.
A look at this week's keyboard warriors, Todd's Trolls, on the Toddcast podcast.
Dinosaur Jr. takes a hit this week. They have a new album coming out. You kind of clump them in with Nirvana, Sonic Youth, Witch, right? They're 12 albums in now, as of this Friday, April 23rd, with the release of Sweep It Into Space.
Guys, no offense, but if we didn't care in the 90s, what makes you think we'd care now? I'll give you $50 if you can name one of their songs. Just one. Whoa, Dinosaur Jr.? Slow new release week much?
In theaters, as of this weekend, April 20th, Vanquish, starring Morgan Freeman. This time Freeman is a bad guy. A Russian drug courier is trying to put her shady past behind her, but retired cop Morgan Freeman forces the courier to do his bidding after he kidnaps the woman's daughter. The trailer looked pretty good to me.
Morgan Freeman is about the only good thing about this movie. Wait, isn't Liam Neeson supposed to be in all movies like this? This movie is more predictable than that anti-masker at your local grocery store saying she's medically exempt from wearing one.
And UFC 261 is this Saturday, April 24th in Jacksonville, Florida. I cannot wait for Usman Masvidal 2. Personally, that's Usman steamrolling Masvidal. He's going to ragdoll him. If you haven't heard already, this show is regular capacity, full stadium capacity.
They're doing full capacity? Florida idiots. It's official. I've lost all respect for the UFC. Greedy pigs. Masvidal got lucky knocking Askren out like he did, and now he's just too much. I cannot deal.
Todd's Trolls on the Toddcast podcast is powered by The Garage, Games and Geekery, your place to play RPGs, board games, and Warhammer in Maple Ridge. Online at garagegames.ca.
Silence!
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would expect nothing less of the band Arlo Wells, based on the first single that they sent us called Ghost. A new song for the podcast, a new song for those guys called Siren. Just an absolute beast of a band. We've been back and forth with them about playing a podcast show when shit gets back to normal. Thumbs up all around. So now I guess we just wait, and you got to think that they are going to be an absolute powerhouse live. You heard Kyle McKerney, and his song is Devil Water. Big fan of what Kyle's been doing over the years. I mean, this kid is a straight up chameleon of music, doing everything from like hard rock to pop. And now we're getting more into his wheelhouse, Americana. Check out our YouTube page. Maybe go back about, I don't know, month and a half, maybe 2 months back, and look for a live stream that he did with us. A few acoustic songs, one of which was Devil Water. I played Annie as well. There was a chit chat, really just a great performance all around. Speaking of live music, find pandemic distanced and live stream shows at the indie scene through toddhancock.ca. Slowly, surely, the scene is going to come alive. It'll get better and better as the months progress here. If you're playing a show or you're seeing one, let us know about it if it's indie. We'll post it at the website. Brought to you by Mystic Rhythms Rehearsal Studios. 40 plus years experience in the music industry. Find out more about them through mysticrhythms.ca. Okay, our final guest of episode 245 is actor Chris Kalhoon, this week's entertainment guest. Brought to you by Tomes. Let them help relieve stress and anxiety and ensure a good night's sleep. That sounds pretty good. The first 7 nights are 100% free at tomes.com. That's TAUMMHOMS.com. TAUMMHOMS.com. Chris has been in the entertainment industry since he was 15. Back then, it was radio announcing, just a local DJ, all of his high school buddies, of course, jealous of the sweet gig. He's worked across Canada in various markets for radio, even had a stint over in the Cayman Islands, which probably didn't suck. Eventually, the acting bug got a hold of Chris, and he did what a lot of people do. He packed up things and moved to LA to pursue the dream, acting, voiceover acting, trading in a microphone for a camera, and so far so good. You've seen him and heard him in video games, TV movies, TV series like Smallville, Dead Zone, Masters of Horror, Stargate Atlantis, The Client List, Batman Beyond. Currently, he's working on a movie called Obscura, where he plays the role of Phoenix. The full talk is posted right now at our iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube accounts. Again, a simple search, Toddcast Podcast. Till you hear that, here's 10 minutes with longtime radio personality turned actor and voice actor, Chris Kalhoon.
The Toddcast Podcast.
I guess that's kind of the majority of the people that would be, following me and kind of watching my podcast and stuff. That's where they would know you from, is, being a DJ in Vancouver. But of course, right now you're banging away. You're in the States, you're doing film, you're doing TV, you're doing voice acting, which is pretty rad, dude. And I want to get into all that, but let's get into radio first, just to kind of, for the people that would know who you are and, get off on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Where did you start? Give us the Coles Notes of the Chris Kalhoon radio guy.
I started when I was 15 years old.
What?
Back in 83, 84 in a place called Woodstock, Ontario, Canada, which is the dairy capital of Canada. And I walked into the radio station one day because I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah. And, I play guitar, garage bands and stuff, and walked in. Is there any kind of music school in the area I could go to? Because I just didn't get high school, like the in a box concept. And they go, no, but we could put you on overnight spinning records. That was my start in radio. And basically I just started spinning records, needle on the vinyl, the old cart machines, if people do the research and they figure it out.
Yeah.
and just spun records for like 3-4 shifts. And then I came in, and the program director gave me a clock, and he goes, talk here, talk here, talk here, talk here. I go, what do I say? Intro the record, just don't talk over the, like, and he showed me, and that was my start in radio.
That is insane, dude. That would never happen today. Like, imagine a 15-year-old
for
kid.
a 15-year-old kid,
like, not happening.
Yeah, no, and because you got to have a degree and everything. Yeah. And I'm a really hands-on guy. Like, I learn hands-on. Show me something, okay, show me again, bang, and I just progressed. And
dude, that's amazing.
I think with anything there has to be talent. You know, if there's a talent there, then it can blossom, and passion.
And so from there, you kind of just stayed in radio, got the full-time gig out of high school. Like, what was that? How did that shake down?
I dropped out of high school.
No kidding.
Yeah, I dropped out of high school. All my friends were envious of me because, you know, I had this cool little radio show. I did overnights, but then eventually I did weekends, evenings, and then through the week. And first gig, hometown radio station, I got fired.
There's a story there.
Yeah. They owed me money, and then it's a big, but anyway, it's part of radio. It's like you have to, when you start, you expect to be fired. If you don't, then you're kind of in the wrong profession. But you know, you shouldn't. But unfortunately, it happens.
Yeah.
And then I went to Leamington, Ontario. I went to Kirkland Lake, Ontario, where I woke up one morning. It was minus 52. I said, "I'm the fuck out of here." And you know,
what am I
travel?
Doing? Yeah.
Like anybody who's done radio, it's, you know, it's like doing dinner theater, and then eventually you gain your way, you go up the ladder.
Yeah.
And then went to Barrie, went to Kingston, went to Ottawa.
Wow, dude,
Montreal.
All over. That's crazy.
A bit in Toronto, and then Vancouver was great for me. It was beautiful. And then Vancouver.
How long were you in Vancouver for?
97. I'm gonna say 12 years.
Yeah.
11 years on air.
Yeah.
And then they clean house at Z95, and it's business.
Again, it's just the way it is. That's just.
And we forget that in radio sometimes. It's not because you suck. It's just, it's a business. And they got rid of all the high paychecks one day. They got rid of 5 of us. Darren Lamb, who's in Toronto and doing really well. He's still in radio. Then I went to Victoria, and I lasted about 9 months. And I said, you know, my heart's just not in it anymore. This is just bullshit. And after that, I looked back and said, oh, fuck, I worked like 26 years in radio, 27 years in radio.
Wow. So the transition then to get to where you are today, man, is fucking awesome, dude.
When I got to I always want to be in film, like entertainment, and like, hello. I want to be a rock star, but it just didn't pan out. That didn't go that course.
So pause. We'll get to that. We'll get on that. What's the instrument? What are you playing? What do you want to be a drummer? What are you doing? Singing, guitarist?
I don't know.
Guitars. Oh, there they are in the back there. Yeah.
Yeah, a little studio going on. Like, I've got it tripped out. And
do you still play?
I write. And since I've been down here, I've been in about 3 bands.
Oh, nice. So you're playing.
And we had a CD ready to go, and then the band imploded. One of the guys, the lead singer, he was actually signed back in the 90s. He hung out in the CA. He's from Seattle. Willie, great writer, unique singer. He knew the guys in Alice in Chains and that whole
that scene,
burgeoning scene. And his band got signed, got sent down to LA. They were in the studio, and then the record company screwed stuff up, and he's just down here. But
wow, I hear a lot of those stories.
Yeah.
Okay, so unpause the other story. So now you're the trajectory to get to where you are.
I digress.
Yes, exactly.
When I was in Vancouver, I gravitated towards film, TV, and started doing background work. Again, just learning from the grassroots and watching, like I'd say to the production assistant, hey, can I watch how they're setting this up? Just, shut up, don't say anything, and I'd watch stuff. And it was like I was on set learning for free. not having to go to theater school or stuff. But eventually I went to a school and took acting lessons in Vancouver with different teachers, various teachers. Wanted to do it right and learn. I just didn't want to be, I'm an actor now.
Yeah. I did radio.
Yeah, exactly. But that was also a dilemma because when I started going up for auditions, it's that radio guy who wants to be an actor.
Always.
Yeah. And I got a couple things here and there, and the voice thing took off with some of the animation that I was doing. But I just couldn't get to the next level in Vancouver. I felt I wasn't being taken seriously. And it wasn't like I just showed up, radio guy wants to be an actor. I did go and study. I studied in Vancouver hard for about 8 years, and then, studied down here with various teachers as well.
Right.
Eventually, met up with a lovely woman, Isa, who's originally from Mexico. And we had this crazy relationship back and forth, her in Mexico, me here. And then she moved up to Vancouver, and I said to her, why don't we move to Los Angeles? I said, I'm just getting nowhere here. And this is, post radio.
Do you think that a little bit of that played into the fact that you were Chris Kalhoon, radio guy? Like, was that one of the key factors in not getting, further than what you'd kind of hoped?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think so. It was a detriment.
Yeah, dude. Like, I've tried personally the same thing. Like, I've tried to get into voice acting and just character stuff, and I've got some, I've got a pretty good tape. But it's really tricky to get in. They always label you, oh, you're that radio guy. You're gonna give a radio read. It's like,
exactly.
But why don't you, give me a chance, give me a try, like bring me to some auditions and let me try and fly. So
there's a guy who broke out of that box, David Kay.
David Kay. Well, David Kay is the voice of my podcast. So it's like Toddcast podcast. Here's Todd Hancock.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
I wasn't available that day.
Yeah, exactly. You weren't returning my texts.
Yeah, but I know I know David. I've been over to his place for Thanksgiving, and he's done extremely well. And he
super nice guy.
Got out of that box. He wasn't just this radio guy. He developed, and he's done very well for himself.
Yeah, he's over the years kind of given me advice on the same thing. Like, you need to take those voice acting classes for people to kind of take you seriously. And at the time, of course, I'm at CFOX. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking take a voice. I'm just not going to take an acting class. He's like, we're probably not going to get anywhere then.
Yeah. It's like, Kobe just didn't show up draining threes.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the court. Or Steve Curry, they're there practicing
day in, day out. So you get to LA, and then do you notice a change right away?
Yeah, I'm a little fish in a big pond. And they use 5 or 6 guys for all the voice stuff. When it comes to film and TV, it's tough. It's very competitive. And you're looking for work. You're unemployed. You're an actor, but you're always unemployed. You take side gigs. But I think I've had more doors open here. And I did with a person I was studying with, who's originally from Vancouver. I didn't know till I moved down here and met him, a director by the name of Dan Ireland, who gave Jessica Chastain her start, Vincent D'Onofrio, Renee Zellweger. Like, there's a whole list. Very humble guy, great guy, likes to develop talent. So I was studying with him, and he started putting his students in films, and I did a short with him, and then he was supposed to do a film. I was supposed to be with Ashley Judd and Bill Paxton in a movie, and all my scenes were going to be with them. So, and he was the director and co-writer, and we were going to film it in Mississippi. But unfortunately, about a month before we were going to start shooting, he passed away.
Entertainment guests of the Toddcast podcast are powered by Tomes, where quality sleep matters. Find out more at tomes.com. That's TAUMMHOMS.com.
unmistakable voice of one Mr. Matt Wood, and they are called Good As Gone. They've had a couple songs in the last few podcasts. Got a few DMs when we played them a couple of weeks back. Dude, got to hear more of the band that has Pride Tigers drummer singer. Last time we played Tall in the Saddle. The song you just heard is called Comin' Down Blues, and hopefully we'll be able to wrangle a live show out of those guys once we get the green light to start putting on some podcast shows again. I'm optimistic, but realistic as well. I'd be blown away if we're doing anything before the new year. I'd be super surprised. Of course, I'd be happy as well. Looking forward to next week. It's all about career highlights, and to give you a taste, the expectation, if you will, since he's not a guest of next week's podcast, but he is an absolute beast. Check out what former Slayer drummer Dave Lombardo had to say.
It's impossible. I've played so many shows, fantastic shows. We just sold out Misfits just sold out Madison Square Garden.
Right.
Wow. It's my fourth time playing the Garden. Once with Slayer, twice with Phantomus. We opened up for the Misfits. We opened up for Tool, and then the Misfits. And the festivals that I've played with Slayer, this documentary is a highlight. There's just so much that I feel that my entire life is a highlight. It feels great. I don't know. There's low points and high points.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
What a cool guy. Career highlights next week. You will hear from 12 guests in total. We all have stories, and that's the focus for next week. I wanted to give big thanks to this week's guests as well. Clutch singer Neil Fallon. Dude, big fan of your band. Loved you for years. Thank you so much for, taking the time and for being so cool. Can't wait to hear what you and the boys come up with for the next album. NLL Vancouver Warriors commentator Brad Challoner, the MD, the APD of Virgin Radio Vancouver. It's a real pleasure to finally sit down and shoot the shit with you, and of course, appreciate you taking the time, and you're good shit, man. Love to do some beers in the real one of these days. And same thing for actor Chris Kalhoon. Dude, I will take you up on those beer offer, next time you're in Vancouver. Simply put, man, you're an inspiration. Keep kicking ass in LA and know that you're making all of us up here in Vancouver super proud. And that's going to do it for this episode 245. We're creeping up to 250. My name is Todd Hancock. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends. Word of mouth is huge. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. We're starting to get some decent plays on YouTube now. We're also part of the Dean Blundell Network. Good buddy, good radio buddy out of Toronto at deanblundell.com. Comment and rate the podcast. Search it out through, again, Toddcast Podcast. Huge thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors. You can find links to all sponsor websites at toddhancock.ca. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, you can for as little as $10 a day. There is contact info at the homepage. Maybe we'll hang out, have a beer, have a, distance coffee, or what is it? Maybe a Zoom or whatever it is. If you help us find a sponsor, we will give you a commission based on the ad buy. Keep that in mind. If you know about a business that gets outside of the box advertising, some social media love, let them know about us. Till next week, don't be an asshole, because nobody wants to be around that. Have fun, play hard, and most of all, believe in yourself.
The Toddcast Podcast. Keep in touch with Todd through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and bookmark toddhancock.ca.
Talmor, Sheshin Marachi. Talmor is my home. My family have worked the land for generations. My gran says the island does not belong to us, but we belong to the island. And we must be ready, for a great evil is coming, and death follows with it.
Listen and subscribe to the latest season of Undertow, The Harrowing, a Storyglass production presented by Realm, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.